Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajagacharya Ashtotar that Sri Srimad's Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajagacharya Ashtotar that Sri Srimad's Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad-gītā Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Page 6, 2 paragraphs up. Is that where we are? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 12th day of February 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad-gītā as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are on page 6 of the introduction. and the second to last paragraph, Lord Krishna descends specifically to reestablish the real purpose of life when man forgets that purpose. Even then, out of many, many human beings who awaken, there may be one who actually enters the spirit of understanding his position, and for him this Bhagavad Gita is spoken. Actually, we are all swallowed by the tigress of nescience, but the Lord is very merciful upon living entities, especially human beings. To this end, he spoke the Bhagavad Gita, making his friend Arjuna his student. Being an associate of Lord Krishna, Arjuna was above all ignorance, but Arjuna was put into ignorance on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just to question Lord Krishna about the problems of life, so that the Lord could explain them for the benefit of future generations of human beings and chalk out the plan of life. Then man could act accordingly and perfect the mission of human life. The subject of the Bhagavad Gita entails the comprehension of 5 basic truths. First of all, the science of God is explained, and then the constitutional position of the living entities, or jivas. There is the Ishvara, which means the controller, and there are jivas, the living entities, which are controlled. If a living entity says that he is not controlled, but that he is free, then he is insane. The living being is controlled in every respect, at least in his conditioned life. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matter deals with the Ishvara, the Supreme Controller, and the Jivas, the controlled living entities. Prakriti, or material nature, and time, the duration of existence of the whole universe, or the manifestation of material nature, and karma, activity, are also discussed. The cosmic manifestation is full of different activities. All living entities are engaged in different activities. From the Bhagavad Gita, we must learn what God is, what the living entities are, what the cosmic manifestation is, how it is controlled by time, and what the activities of the living entities are. Out of these 5 basic subject matters in the Bhagavad Gita, it is established that the Supreme Godhead, or Krishna, or Brahman, or the Supreme Controller, or the Paramatma, you may use whatever name you like, is the greatest of all. The living beings are in quality like the Supreme Controller. For instance, the Lord has control over the universal affairs of material nature, as will be explained in the later chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. Material nature is not independent. She is acting under the directions of the Supreme Lord. As Lord Krishna says, Maya Jakshena Pakati Suyate Sacharacharam. This material nature is working under my direction. When we see wonderful things happening in the cosmic nature, we should know that behind this cosmic manifestation, there is a controller. Nothing could be manifested without being controlled. It is childish not to consider the controller. For instance, a child may think that an automobile is quite wonderful to be able to run without a horse or other animal pulling it. But a sane man knows the nature of the automobile's engineering arrangement. He always knows that behind the machinery there is a man, a driver. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the driver under whose direction everything is working. Now, the jivas, or the living entities, have been accepted by the Lord, as we will note in the later chapters, as his parts and parcels. A particle of gold is also gold, a drop of water from the ocean is also salty, and similarly, we, the living entities, being part and parcel of the Supreme Controller, or Ishvara, or Bhagavan, Lord Sri Krishna, have all the qualities of the Supreme Lord in minute quantity, because we are minute Ishwaras, subordinate Ishwaras. We are trying to control nature, as presently we are trying to control space or planets, and this tendency to control is there because it is in Krishna. But although we have a tendency to lord it over material nature, we should know that we are not the Supreme Controller. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshu unmilitam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So in the science of Bhakti Yoga as taught by Lord Chaitanya and his followers, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, there are these three divisions of understanding. The first is sambandha. Sambandha, the word bandha is basically the same, bondage. So the connection between all of the things in our purview, things that we see that exist. So sambandha indicates the nature of God, the Supreme Controller, the nature of this world, Prakriti, and our relation as jiva to those things. What are the relationship between Krishna and this world? How does it come to be? What is our relationship with this world, and what is our relationship with Krishna? This relationship, or bonds, you know, it's there in the word. That has to be understood before we really progress in devotional service. So, once we understand those basic points, now Prabhupada is now giving us this very important information. What are the topics of discussion in this Bhagavad Gita? What's it about? So there's 5 basic topics, and the sambandha fits into them. So the first is the Ishvara, or God, the controller, the source of everything. Then we may say, then there's the jivas, the living entities, who are Prabhupada always uses part and parcel. And he also expands it, and we let it go in the books, parts and parcels, which really you won't find in any other book. But it's understood. Basically, particles. Krishna, I think Prabhupada cites this verse without quoting the Sanskrit. Mamai vangsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manakshastan indriyani prakritistani karshati. Very important verse in the 15th chapter, I believe. So, mamhi part of mamai vangsho, mama eva angsha. Angsha is this particle. Like a perfect example, a drop of water from the ocean out here. Or you get a little vial full of it, you know, and you analyze it. So it's going to be, you know, going to have all of the chemicals that the big ocean has. Of course, they vary if you go 100,000 miles away. But basically, there's a salt and so many other minerals, and there's little bits there. So a drop of sea water has the qualities of the sea in minute degree. The other common analogy is the sun and the sunshine. What is the shine? The shines are made up of these little photons. Apparently, they've analyzed it, which have a little bit of light and a little bit of heat, and that's what we get from the sun, isn't it? Light and heat. So the sun's light and heat is inconceivably great, and the little rays, you know, if you can accumulate them, they can also have plenty of light and heat, you know. But each ray has its little bit of it. So that's the idea of part and parcel. So you have the Ishvara, then you have the jivas, then you have Prakriti. Prakriti is this material nature. We're also part of Prakriti. Prakriti means energy, that which is enjoyed, that which is controlled. Ishvara means the controller, Parameshvara, the supreme controller. We're also, since we're like Krishna, little bits, we're little controllers. We have our domain where we can control our little house, you know, or car, if you live in your car, or your little plot of land if you live on the street. But you're trying to be a controller, right? You've got, you know. So we're Ishwaras, little Ishwaras. He's Parameshvara, the Supreme Ishvara. He's controlling us. So you got now you have the Supreme Controller, who is also the source of everything, and you have the Prakriti, which is the inanimate, the earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. He analyzes them in the 7th chapter. And then you have the Prakriti, who are the jivas. Jivas are actually Prakriti. But we're trying to be the Purusha. The Purusha is the enjoyer, you see? So that's our problem, that we're trying to be in a position that we aren't really in. We're little mini controllers, but we're trying to be the controller and enjoyer, etc. So we have the Ishvara, the Jiva, the Prakriti, and we have Kala, or time. Now time is, Krishna identifies with time, famously in that famous verse, Kalosmi, Loka Chayatrit Pravido. Actually, there's 3 places in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, I am time. Kala Kalayatam Kaham, I am, as the controller, I am time. So time is moving us. You can't do anything about it. It's pushing everything toward destruction, but it's also developing. You know, a seed is growing, a time is place. So, and then you have karma, activity. Now, all of them are eternal except karma. We as jivas, we're eternal. Our bodies are eternal, but we ourselves are eternal. The jayate miyate bhakadacha. So we have that quality. Also, prakriti always exists. It may not be always manifest. It may be absorbed into the body of Mahavishnu, but it's there in seed form. It exists, you see. So prakriti is also, time is perpetual. It never ends, you know. But karma is temporary. You do something, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end with your activity. Then there are some results of the activity, you see. But ultimately, karma and its results are bound by time. They come and they go. But the other four are eternal. So this is the subject matter of the Bhagavad Gita. And how understanding them and learning how to deal with all of them. You know, like time. There's this nice phrase, avyarta kaladvam. This is one of the little phrases, I think, from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Recommendations for how to practice Bhakti Yoga. Don't waste time. Avyarta kaladvam. You know, wasting time. Time is, you know, it's eternal, but our time in this body is not eternal. The body is definitely temporary, right? So understanding the importance and the urgency of inquiring into the absolute truth and surrendering to a teacher and learning how to transform our lives so that we can make the best use of it. Probably love that phrase, the best use of a bad bargain. You know, I think he got that from Bhakti Siddhanta. Probably one of these English, you know, mottos. But it's definitely true. So it's nice to know that list, and you see, because anything you learn in Krishna consciousness, you can see, oh, this relates to the Ishvara and the Jiva, and this relates to, you know, and there's so much about material energy, how it's working, the description of creation in the third canto. But it all fits into those five subject matters. So that's something to learn. Okay, so if there are no questions or discussion, we'll move along. Out of these five basic subject matters in the Bhagavad Gita, it is established that the Supreme Godhead, or Krishna, or Brahman, or the Supreme Controller, or Paramatma, I think we read that, did we? Okay, so we got to the end of the paragraph. What is material nature? That is also explained in the Gita as inferior prakriti. Yeah, there's the inferior prakriti and the superior prakriti. We're superior prakriti. The living entity is explained as the superior prakriti. Prakriti is, or para prakriti. Prakriti is always under control, whether inferior or superior. Prakriti is female, and she is controlled by the Lord just as the activities of a wife are controlled by the husband. Prakriti is always subordinate, predominated by the Lord, who is the predominator. The living entities and material nature are both predominated, controlled by the Supreme Lord. According to the Gita, the living entities, although parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are to be considered prakriti. This is clearly mentioned in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Apareme tastranyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhutam. This material nature is my inferior prakriti, aparayam, apara. But beyond this, this is another prakriti, jiva bhuta, the living entities, who are para prakriti, you see. So this is a very nice understanding. Now the prakriti, we're by nature prakriti. In other words, we're energy, and we're meant to be in tune with the Supreme Controller of energy. Then we're happy, you see. But when we try to act like the Purusha, that's when we get into trouble. Now that's one of those verses in the 13th chapter. Those who've been listening to these classes for a while, I have a few, you know, about 10 favorite verses. This is one of them. Purusha prakatisto hi bhunkte prakriti jangunan karanam gunasangosya sadasad joni janmasu. A very important verse. So what is he saying? That Purusha, now here he's saying the prakriti, jiva, acting like the Purusha, and within material nature. Purusha prakritisto hi. The enjoying, attempting to enjoy living entity who's within material energy. That's us. Prakritisto hi. Bhunkte prakriti jan gunan. Now, bhunkte is an interesting word because it often means enjoying. You know, like bhoga, bhunkte, I think they're related. But it also just means experiencing. Because if you're in prakriti, you're trying to enjoy, but a lot of times you're not enjoying, you're suffering. So that bhunkte prakriti jan gunan is experiencing the modes of nature which are generated from material prakriti, the nature, you see? Bhunkte prakriti jan gunan karanang guna sangosya. Now here we have our free will. As we associate with those modes, as we cultivate, no, I'm not going to do that. I know that's the mode of ignorance, and I'm not going to sleep right now. Hare Krishna. I'm going to chant Hare Krishna. So that we can choose what mode we want to associate with. It's important. People who don't know that, it's just, well, whatever feels good, Let's go have a couple of beers. What's wrong with that? It's modes of nature. So Purusha prakriti bhunkte prakriti karanang guna sangas. Karana means the cause. This is the cause of our taking birth in a good or bad womb. In other words, getting a good or bad birth, it's up to us. We're making our destiny. As we associate with the modes, or disassociate from the lower modes and associate with higher modes. So how do, we have to learn, well, this is in the mode of ignorance, this is in the mode of goodness. Getting up early and taking a shower and chanting Hare Krishna. That's in the mode of goodness, pure goodness, And sleeping in, oh, it's my day off. Are you kidding? I'm going to sleep until 11, maybe 12. Wasting time. That's mode of ignorance. So if we know, well, that's going to lead to suffering, I'm going to choose a mode of goodness, even though it's, it's a little discipline, So karanam guna sadasad yoni, good and bad births, is determined by how we associate with those modes. Very important. So, how far did I get? Did I read the second paragraph of the text, page 8? Yeah, upper A, yeah, we quoted that. Okay, so then the material nature is itself constituted by three qualities, the mode. Now here, I'm working on revising this. It's a little confusing when Prabhupada uses the word quality to mean mode. Because then we have there's only three qualities in nature. Three qualities in nature? So many other things. So those qualities are going to be modes. Because the word is the same in Sanskrit, guna. You see? Sri guna. Guna means mode. It also means qualities. So anyway, so if I start substituting the word mode in here, that's what, because then he said qualities, the mode. So here is, material nature itself is constituted by three modes: the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. Above these modes, there is eternal time. And by a combination of these modes of nature and under the control and purview of eternal time, there are activities which are called karma. These activities are being carried out from time immemorial, and we are suffering or enjoying the fruits of our activities. This is the bhunkte. Bhunkte can mean suffering or enjoying. For instance, suppose I am a businessman and I have worked very hard with intelligence and have amassed a great bank balance. Then I am an enjoyer. But then say I have lost all my money in business, then I am a sufferer. Similarly, in every field of life, we enjoy the results of our work, or we suffer the results. This is called karma. So that karma clearly is temporary. In other words, you're making your karma, and as we go, and we can decide to make it this way, and we can eventually put an end to all of the karmic reactions if we go back to Godhead. Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, Jiva, the living entity, Prakriti, nature, Kala, eternal time, and Karma, activity, are all explained in the Bhagavad Gita. So they're the 5 subjects. Out of these 5, the Lord, the living entities, material nature, and time are eternal. The manifestation of Prakriti may be temporary, but it is not false. Some philosophers say that the manifestation of material nature is false, but according to the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, or according to the philosophy of the Vaishnavas, this is not so. The manifestation of the world is not accepted as false. It is accepted as real, but temporary.
It is likened unto a cloud which moves across the sky, or the coming of the rainy season, which nourishes grains. As soon as the rainy season is over, and as soon as the cloud goes away, all the crops which were nourished by the rain dry up. Similarly, this material manifestation takes place at a certain interval, stays for a while, and then disappears. Such are the workings of Prakriti. But this cycle is working eternally. Therefore, Prakriti is eternal. It is not false. The Lord refers to this as my Prakriti. This material nature is the separated energy of the Supreme Lord. And similarly, the living entities are also the energy of the Supreme Lord, although they are not separated, but eternally related. So the Lord, the living entity, material nature, and time are all interrelated and are all eternal. However, the other item, karma, is not eternal. The effects of karma may be very old indeed. We are suffering or enjoying the results of our activities from time immemorial. But we can change the results of our karma or our activity, and this change depends on the perfection of our knowledge. We are engaged in various activities. Undoubtedly, we do not know what sort of activities we should adopt to gain relief from the actions and reactions of all activities, but this is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita. So this idea that we're hankering for even if we don't articulate it, but just viscerally, we want an eternal position of security and happiness. We don't want to be threatened by the passage of time. Oh boy, I remember when I was 18, boy, I could jump, I was playing basketball and everything. And now, just look at me, I can hardly even jump in Arctic anymore. So these are the ravages of time, because time causes everything to become dissolved and change. So we're looking for that sat. Now we're immersed in asat. Remember that famous instruction of Prahlad Maharaj to his father. Talk about speaking truth to power. Here's this monstrous demon who was already a monster. Then he went away and performed severe austerities to become even more powerful. He thought he was God, basically. And then he takes over the universe, more or less. All the demigods are bowing down to him. Even Narada Muni said, I have to bow. And here's his little son, 5 years old, just started school. He has no idea that he's a Vaishnava. Pretty amazing. So he asks him, puts him on his lap, and smells his head, out of affection. There's no report card, so this is the idea of report card. So what did you learn today, Prahlad? What's the best thing you learned today? And of course, he wanted to be trained up in the Machiavellian arts of demoniac, domination. And he had these two teachers, Shanda and Amarka, who were looking on, and they were hoping he would get the right answer. So he says to his father, he doesn't call him father until he's killed, then he calls him the father. Tat sadhamanye asodavāryadehinam sadasam udvignadiyam asadgrahat hitvatnapatam griyamandakupam vanam gatoya dharamashayeta. This was a real shock for his father. I'll tell you, you'll find out what he meant. So let's see. So the word sadhu, first of all, sadhu means a saintly person. We know that, even in English. I'm sure it's in the English dictionary. But sadhu also just means very good, the best. Like sometimes, I remember when I first joined, I didn't know all this Sanskrit and everything, but we come across the passage in the book, maybe Kṛṣṇa book, and the boys are saying, Krishna did some wonderful feat, sadhu, sadhu, And so we were saying, oh, they're calling him a sadhu, he's a great sadhu, No, sadhu just means bravo in that case, bravo, bravo. So here it just means the best. So the best thing I learned, because you want to know the best, tat sadhu manye, in my opinion, father. And not father, asodavaya, or best of the demons. Asodavaya, best for whom? For the dehinas. Now immediately this is transcendental knowledge. Those are the indwelling soul in the body, dehina. Tat asodavaya dehinam. Who are sadasamudvigna diyam, whose intelligence is always disturbed because, incredible, just like 4 syllables, he's analyzed like the essence of all the problem in the world. Asadgrahat. Because we're hanging on to the temporary as if it's eternal. Just think when you know, in your body. You know, I can't resist, you know, when I take my walk. I've been kind of not taking a walk for a few days because I had a little problem with my back. It's healing up now. Now the rains are coming. But anyway, so I go past this new gym, you know, and it's a very dynamic gym. It's not just you know, you've got music playing in there, you've got coaches, and it's all young people. You know, there's no old codgers in there trying to, you know, go on bike. You know, sometimes they go around the block. They give them big weights, and they have to hold them while they go around the place. Oh, they're running. I have to get off the sidewalk. But anyway, so you know, I remember what it was like. You know, when you're young, you think, I'm young. I'm constitutionally young. You know, I'm not going to be old. I mean, that's for old people. I mean, you know, theoretically, but you feel like this is my eternal constitutional position, isn't it? So it's so crazy, you know. They're wasting their time in there. You know, it's a temple to the body. It's a temple for the body. There's even music playing. You know, they open the window and it's blasting it. So that's the illusion. You know, when especially when you're enjoying in the body. You know, this is great. You know, I get my senses into that. I got money to spend like that. You know. And you identify with that money. And this is why it's such a painful existence, because that eventually goes. The money is spent, you get some disease, you just get old, you know, or your plans are all dashed, you know, this happened, whatever it is. That's the nature of the material world. Asat. Asat means it's temporary. So that's, he says, sadasambudvigna means they're always disturbed. Because they're a sadgrahat. You've taken shelter, you're holding on to for dear life, something that's temporary, that's changing, and that's, you know. It's like my old analogy here, forgive me, I have to think up some new ones. But we're right here next to the ocean. You know, so people go out, in my walks, I didn't always walk up Cass, I would walk in, I would see people that had their boats parked in their backyard, you know. They're going to take out on the ocean, you know, and enjoy, you know. They're on the beach, we're right here. And the sufferers, surfers, probably call them sufferers. You know, running to the beach, you know, the young guys, you know, you can run to the beach with the boards, you know, in your arms, get out and anyway, so that's a good analogy. So you got the surfboard. That you're taking shelter of the surfboard, right? You're out there, there's a big wave, you know, okay, I can negotiate the wave, you know. But it may fail you. You know, your big waves comes up and dashes you down, and underneath the water you can die under there, right? And so you're thinking, I'm in charge. I'm a great surfer, you know, surfer. So in that one verse, in this one verse, Prahlad has analyzed the problem of material life. Is that however you may think you have it together, it's going to change. You know, and eventually you die, and everything you built up, all your relationships, your bank account, your prestige, everything finished. You know, what kind of life is that for a spirit soul? It's a great illusion. It's a great illusion. So he's analyzed it. So what's the solution? So he says, hit vatmapatam. Give up the blind well of materialistic family life, of materialistic household life. Griyam andakupam, it's a blind well. Hitva atmapatam. What is atmapatam? Means it obstructs the progress of the soul. Hitva atmapatam griyam. Vanam gato, go to the forest. And all the commenters said, yes, the forest means Vrindavan. Go to Vrindavan. Vanam gato yad hadam ashriyeta. Now those two words were like a whip on the back of Hiranyakashipu. Hadim is Hari, who just killed his brother, Hiranyaksha. His arch enemy, Hari. You know, so where did you get that from? So he looks over at Sunda and Amarka. We didn't teach him. We don't know how he got that. Where does that come from? So they get Prahlad back and say, where did you learn all that? You know, he learned in the womb from Narada. Anyway, that's the nature, and everybody is, you know, human beings and subhuman beings and superhuman beings, and everyone is involved in this Maya illusion of thinking that we can be the controllers, we can be the enjoyers. They failed to do it, but I'm going to do it. And you know, but it's obviously such a bankrupt enterprise, because it's bound by time. Time is going to take it all away from you. So what's the point? You're investing. We're all investors. Some of these guys are investing millions or billions of dollars in the stock market. But all of us are investing time and energy and attention in some path of activity. Now, for 99.99% of the people, it's trying to figure out how we can enjoy, and be secure. And oftentimes, that's the hard struggle for existence, just to have a roof over your head. People, the rents are crazy, the mortgages are crazy, we have all these homeless people. What are you going to do? All right, I got my corner here. Thank God I have a warm sleeping bag, Now I'm really enjoying, I can sleep. It's a tragic waste of human life. So if a human being is really fortunate, we come in touch with this knowledge, which is coming through Srila Prabhupada from Kṛṣṇa. And we decide that, yes, let me try to progress toward perfection. And understanding that I may not achieve in this one life. But I'll get a next chance. I just heard the verse today, Prabhupada's quoting, from the 5th chapter, 1st canto. This is Narada Muni speaking to Vyasadeva, encouraging him to write the Bhagavatam. This is why the 1st canto is really introductory to how the Bhagavatam came to be. So he says, Prabhupada loved this verse, Chaktvasva dharmam chadanambu jangharer bhajan napakvo tapate tato yadi yatra kvabhadram abudhamushikim kovarta apto abhajatam swadharmataha. So this is speaking to, working very conscientiously and doing your dharma within varnashram dharma, you see. But if there's no bhajan, if there's no relation to Krishna, what do you gain? It all comes to an end, and by your karma you may lose your human life or keep suffering. So it's Tyaktva Swadharma. One who gives up his Swadharma and joins the Hare Krishnas. That's the idea. Swadharma, Chadanambhajang Hare, and worships the lotus feet of Hari. Chadanambhaja. Bhajan, but is a pakvo. Pakvo is a nice word. Bhajan is not completely cooked. Pakva is the cook. It's not. He bloops. He or she leaves and doesn't complete. Okay, so they gave up their dharma in Varnashram and they joined the Hare Krishnas, and then they left there for 5 years. So what did they gain? What did they gain? That whatever they did for Krishna is in their permanent bank account. Okay, you fell away. And let's be honest. The vast majority of Prabhupada's initiated disciples, you don't hear from them anymore. And there's this book that comes out. It's about 10 years now that Jayawaita Maharaj conceived of this. Vyasa Puja book, that to write homages in just for Prabhupada's disciples. Not for, because the other one has so many other, it's fine. It's an ISKCON devotee book. But these are, devotees who, they could have been out of the movement for so long or gone off somewhere or did some nonsense. But if you are initiated disciple, you can write a tribute for Prabhupada in that book. So they keep writing me, Dravida Das, please, send in your offering, which I will eventually, by April 15th, I think. Anyway, so, it's quite impressive. The book is pretty thick, but when you count the offerings, there may be, 200-300. Prabhupada initiated almost 5,000 disciples. And most of them you don't hear about. And there's I don't know, if there are 100, 200 say, that are still active in the movement today, because practically everyone's in their 70s, so you can understand. But anyway, I would be surprised. Like around here, we just had a little gift-giving thing. I don't know if you hear it. That was the local Prabhupada disciples. If there were a dozen of them, not all of them showed up and were able to come. But what happened? Somehow the modes of nature or this or that, or, some physical problem, whatever it is. So it's meaning that they may not, go back to God in this lifetime. Chances are high, if they're not fully engaged in chanting and everything like that. But whatever they did is to their credit. Is there, and they'll be able to pick up. But but the other part of the verse is, but if you nicely do all of your duties in Varnashram nicely, but there's no bhajan, what do you gain? What do you really gain? If there's no bhajan at all, then who knows what your next life will be, So therefore, that's a very strong inducement to try as hard as you can to practice devotional service and go as far as we can in this life. And Prabhupada really encourages us to go back to Godhead, really, but it's not easy. Becoming a pure devotee, to be free of all tinges of material desire. So anyway, if there's no discussion, I keep losing my place. Okay, Prabhu, but let's do it with the mic. Give him the mic.
If I can read a sentence, and then maybe you can comment on it.
Okay, but just make sure you move the mic up a little bit. That's it.
Prakriti is female, and she is controlled by the Lord, just as the activities of the wife are controlled by the husband.
Uh-huh. Well, maybe that's not always true, is it? I don't want to go there. I was never married in ISKCON. I was never married outside of ISKCON. So in the modern age, things are all topsy-turvy, crazy, But in family life within ISKCON, you see that, okay, the wife has certain roles to play and the husband has certain roles to play. And somebody's got to be in charge. I guess it could go the other way. I don't know. But that's the natural way it works, I mean, then, not that, of course, the thing is, it's so crazy in the modern world that sounds like slavery, it sounds like it's not fair to the wife. But that's the Veda culture. And not that there's an understanding, and the point is, this whole thing you first learn. Oh, it's temporary. I mean, the marriage, probably I was 25 years. Get married at 25, and you have children right away, and then at 20. Well, no, at 50 there's vanaprastha. Then you don't have to separate. You can travel, but there's no sex life. You travel to the holy places together, like that. And then at a certain point, the man takes sannyas, and the mother goes back, the wife goes back to be taken care of by the grown-up sons. Where are those grown-up sons who are going to say, oh, okay, come on, Mom, come on, live with me today? Not so common. So Prabhupada, at some point, Prabhupada, at one point said, Prabhupada, we have to try to establish varnashram on these farms, varnashram dharma, which would try to follow this. But then at other points, it says, in the modern age, it's impossible to establish varnashram. So basically, it's yes, that's Prakriti. I mean, we are meant to be controlled, to surrender unto Krishna, as and to put our own personal desires on the side and do what Krishna wants. And we experience, if we actually do that we feel happier and happier, and we're not rebelling against Krishna. And the other thing is we understand, yes, as soon as I try to enjoy, that's karma, and it's going to result in some suffering. The worst thing is it brings another birth. So once you understand this, yehi sangsparjaja bhoga dukkha yona yevate. This is like a theme song for this class. Every few classes, if I don't quote this verse in a few classes, then I get confused. But it all becomes very clear. Yehi sangsparjita bhoga dukkha yona evate yadyandabantan konte yanate shuramite vada. Sangsparshaja means the touch of the senses with the objects. This is the source of sense gratification, literally. Bhoga, dukkha yoni. That very pleasure is the source of all misery. And therefore, those who are intelligent don't aspire for it or minimize it as far as possible. Why is it misery? Adyandavanta. First of all, it's temporary. We want permanent happiness. But everyone knows that you can only eat so many gulab jamuns. And you got to stop. And if you don't stop, it becomes, you're going to suffer. So sense gratification has limits. And how does it bring me? Because it brings you back again to another material body. That's the big thing. So therefore, even within family life and the Vedic culture and Gaudiya Vaishnavism, there are all these restrictions. You know, there's rules and regulations when you can have sex, and the reason why, you know, to produce a Krishna conscious child. And there's a Garbhadan Sanskar, which is a, I don't know if this is orthodox, but this is what Prabhupada prescribed. You know how we chant 16 rounds, you know. So before sex, to have a child, you have to chant 50 rounds. And I was saying, my God, after 50 rounds, who wants to have sex? You know, he's like, I'm going to tasting the holy name, forget it. So when Hayagriva heard that, this is in the Matchless Gifts, you know, this is 22nd Avenue. He said, oh, you might as well forget about it, give it up. He said, yeah, that's the idea. 50 rounds, okay. Anyway, that's you know, it's obviously children have to be born. You know, children probably make, you know, in one lecture I said, look, all these great acharyas, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, you know, Bhaktisiddhanta, everybody, they were once born from a mother, you know, you can't have sex. Krishna says, yes, I have sex, which is not against Dharma. Dharma viruddho buddhishi kamasmi bhadatarshava. So it's because I am that sex, which is not against religious principles. Well, these are some of the religious principles. There's an understanding, if you yield to that, then you become compromised and you come back again and suffer. So for the best, you know, a marriage that's centered on that. I mean, we had a perfect example here with Gaur Keshava and his children. And the children are growing up, you know, as devotees. And Brinda, you know, she said, even at the time they were here, she was getting better and better and singing, you know. And there's Mukunda learning more beats, you know. That they're raising their children. And if you go home, we've had some home programs. They got this altar with all kinds of deities on it. You see that? Amazing. And now he called me. I talked to him. He's in Seattle now. They're going to the temple regularly and you know, fitting into that community. So that's not the, you know, there are many household couples who are staunch devotees and built this movement and maintaining it. It's not like it. Anyway. Yes, it can be shocking, some of the things you read here. Be controlled, oh my God, no control. Any other discussion? Oh, Antonella, we only have one mic.
Hi, Krishna.
Hi, Ro.
So I'm a little confused. Like, you talk about surfing, and when I was young, I was not a surfer, but I was semi-pro windsurfer.
Oh, really? You were surfing?
Yeah. And that was the best activity, and I still have. If I close my eyes, I remember those times gliding with the board on the water. And no, well, it was pretty mystical experience. So I don't want to minimize it. Like, so I mean, it's really a time where I felt close to nature. Back then, I was young. I was not in Kṛṣṇa yet, but God, you know. So, I don't see really any harm in that type of activity. Maybe the fact that it's temporary. But if I'm aware it's temporary and it's gonna end, and I'm happy that I lived it, so I don't see. So you're suggesting that I shouldn't have experienced that? That I wasted my time doing that? So I'm confused in this sense. So I want a little explanation. So I'm saying it was not just like having fun, like going to the bar. It was actually
all I can say is,
sharing nature.
It's good that you felt, you know, there's a mystical experience, and that maybe it made you more interested in hearing about Krishna, reading Bhagavad-gītā, spiritual life, yoga, you know, fine, yeah. But in general, you know who was a surfer, big time? Yeah. Badinarayan Swami. He grew up in Laguna Beach, you know, which is a big surfing town like this. Hey, I was into basketball. I was a mad basketball player when I was, 13, 14, 15. No one's going to tell me to give up basketball and chant Hare Krishna. Yeah. I can't honestly say it was a mystical experience. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to demean your surfing, but for most of the people who do it, I don't think it's much of a mystical experience. I think it's just one of the many ways that you can enjoy in this world, and generally, if you're really into different kinds of material enjoyment, you'll be less receptive to this kind of philosophy, because Because yehi sansparjita bhoga. The very things that we most enjoy, you have to limit. You know? Forget that. You know? I'd rather go down to the bar. But if you, I think because of your previous life, you know, it was a mystical experience. I don't think that most of the surfers here would describe it that way. It's like, anyway. I have just the opposite experience. And then I will have to stop after. I'll do a poem or two. I think I died by drowning in my last life. And it's very interesting because I grew up, you know, 15 minutes from Jones Beach. I grew up on Long Island. And my father, you know, when the summer came, he would take us to the beach, Jones Beach. And I was a skinny little kid, and it was always too cold for me, you know. So I'd wade in a little bit and come out, and I'd build the sandcastle. You know, that was my beach experience. And so then there were pools around, and I would go and mess around in the pool. But I never learned how to swim. I was not attracted to the water. You know, the water, I think it was a visceral thing. And you know when I learned to swim? I did learn to swim when I went to college. It was required. I only spent about a semester in college, but in University of Chicago, you don't know how to swim, you learn how to swim, you know. So we'd all be a bunch of us didn't know how to swim. There was the pool, and we learned. But then, you know, when I joined up, Hare Krishna, I joined in Brooklyn, and I was near the ocean, but I never even thought that I wanted to go in. You know, it was a relief that wasn't expected to go in. And then from there I went to LA, still on the beach basically, you know, Venice Beach. And it was nice, you know, we do the Rath Yatra on the beach, but I never went in. Then from there I came to Atlanta, no beach, but that was a short time. Then we went up to Philadelphia, a lot of air pollution blowing in from New Jersey. But then back to New York and then down to Miami, literally on the beach. I could see the water from my window. I was in a former hotel. 6 years. I went in maybe 4 times, you know. And that was just because I was doing my exercise just to cool off after I was doing my stuff, you know. And then from there, Pacific Beach. And I could be in Oklahoma, you know. I don't even go down to the beach. It's like I just have an aversion to the water. So I'm the last person in the world who would want to surf, you know. I don't even want to swim, go out of it. So I don't know, each one has its own thing, but whatever helped you, you know, get interested in mystical things and turn to yoga and become interested, then it's auspicious. So for you, it's okay. All right, we have time for one short poem. Okay, here's a nice poem about determination, right? We had this one, I think. Vidachayamai dandam dina bando dayangpa gatadihana bavattak kachadanyamamasti nipatadashat koti nirmalangva navambas tatapakilapa stuyate chatakena. You know this one? Chataka, you know the chataka bird is, drinks the water. The chataka subsists on rain it catches in midair. And so it's always praying to the cloud to send its fare. Yet though that cloud may send a thunderbolt instead of rain, that bird continues praying fervently despite the pain. Just like the Chataka, I fix my mind upon one goal, and that is you, O Lord, most kind to every fallen soul. So whether it is punishment you give, or mercy sweet, I'll always pray to you for service to your lotus feet. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.